First off, Joe, I was a little disappointed you didn't pray for people to fall. Uh, I know you tap danced around it, but you just couldn't come out and say it. Uh, but no one would have I understand. No one would have blamed you. And it's nice that Steve James shows up as often as when he was a member. So I got your back. You know that. We've got with us Andreas Weber from ODOT today. He's a Wetumpka native went to East Central, currently lives in Chandler. Uh, he has spent 16 years in the transportation field and was also the superintendent of both the Turner and Creek turnpikes at one time. But his discussion today is going to be he's in charge of implementing the Oklahoma Natural Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan. He will be overseeing it. So come on up, Andreas. Looks green.
Looks green to me. All right. All right, my name is Andreas Weber. I'm the Advanced Mobility Coordinator at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Does anybody in the room own an EV? Oh, okay. Do you enjoy them? You like them? Okay. I don't own one. I don't drive one or anything other than the one that's on the screen there. Everybody that I know that I've spoken to that has an EV, they love them. All right, with that being said, how familiar is the room with EVs? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to give you a brief run through before we get started in the beginning of these slides here. There's only 127 slides, so it shouldn't take a little more than 2 hours. We'll see what we can do. All right, so to get started, there are 37,904 registered vehicles in Stillwater. Does anybody want to guess how many registered EVs are in Stillwater? Who said 200? 200? 250? There are 191 registered EVs. So here you go. You get a prize.
All right.
Woo! All right. Yep. So not a great number, but they are increasing in popularity. Does anybody know what these vehicles are here on the screen? Canoes. There you go. That was my next point. Canoe was an Oklahoma-based operation. They are no longer. The state of Oklahoma has purchased 3 canoes from them. The middle one there is the second one off the production line out of their Oklahoma City facility. None of these vehicles are operational any longer. So they have let go all their employees, they're liquidating assets and everything. These won't even unlock. So they don't do anything. They are bricked. They will not do anything. Real fun to drive when they worked. Pretty interesting little vehicle. They do not work. So, all right. So
They give you your money back?
they don't exist. So we are still working through that. We don't know what's going to happen with them. I tried to get a Ford Lightning. They didn't give me one. They gave me those. So as he said, I'm here to talk to you about the Oklahoma Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Deployment Plan, NEVI, as it's referred to nationwide. Little schooling on EVs. How many people know that you can actually charge your EV vehicle from any plug in this room, from a standard 110 outlet? Yep. I do not advise it. It will take about 48 hours to charge off of one of these outlets. Not efficient at all, but it can be done. That is your level 2. I'm going to step out here so I can see that. I guess I can see it right here. Huh? That is your level 1 charging here. Level 2 is equivalent to a dryer plug-in. That's typically what you install in your home when you purchase an EV. Depending on the make, model, battery, all that good stuff, level 2 charger will give you a full charge in 6 to 8 hours. That's why most EV owners, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you in here, will charge overnight. That way it's during off-peak hours, saves you a little bit of money, and it also charges while you're sleeping. Level 3, or as you see here, DCFC, direct current fast charge. That is what we are building with this NEVI plan. That can charge a vehicle, again, depending on the vehicle itself, anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes. So quite a bit quicker, still not as quick as fueling at a gas pump, but it works. That's what we are building out with level 1 and level 2 of our NEVI plan. There's actually 3 levels or 3 phases to our NEVI plan. We'll get into that here in a little bit. If there are any questions at any time, please feel free to ask. You don't have to wait till the end. If you've got a question, stop me. There we go.
What vendor are you using to build the stations?
No specific vendor. What we are doing, we are releasing RFPs, requests for proposals. Vendors, gas stations, everybody is coming to us with their collaborative plans, and we select based off of a scoring rubric, highest points wins. So we'll touch base on that. Our round 1 awardees, that's a little later on. You're stepping on my presentation, but if you have a question about this slide, anybody.
I can make it relate. I have a microphone, so I trump
Okay.
you. So you told us, I know, I'm channeling my old sergeant at arms. It was fun. Thanks, Scott Petty. So you told us the percentage of, or the number of EV cars in Stillwater, but what about statewide? Is this like, if you build it, they will come kind of idea, or what is the percentage currently in Oklahoma?
Great question. We don't know if it's a build the infrastructure and the adoption rate will go up, or have the demand and build the infrastructure. We're basically given $66 million as a state to deploy these chargers. We can't spend that money on anything other than EV infrastructure. So we are building out. So we don't know which one is the best case, vehicles first or charging first. To answer your question as far as percentage in the state, there are over 4 million registered vehicles in the state of Oklahoma. There's about 22,000 registered EVs. Any math people in here? Do that percentage real quick, because I don't know the percent. I think it's 0.01% maybe. Something very small. There you go.
So can you place a value for us on what level 2 versus DCFC is? Is that like 220, 221?
You got it. Next question. No. So level 2 would be equivalent to like a 220 like we discussed. Level 3 is anywhere, I don't know what the actual, I'm not a electrical engineer. We've got 2 sitting at this table, 2 future y'all want to jump in? Okay. I know that to be NEVI approved, they have to be able to output 150 kilowatt hours at the low end. The highest we've seen is 350. If that makes any sense to you? Oh. Okay, there you go. Any other questions? All right. Go ahead.
Does weather, like we've had the last few days, does that affect the output?
It could. In order, that's on the next slide here. You'll see the 97% uptime there at the bottom. They are these NEVI awarded sites are required to report data every month. If they fail to achieve that 97% uptime without some kind of solution, they will not receive their full money. So we'll jump through this one and see if this one answers your question. Like I said,
Nobody meets that percentage. Not even Tesla, they're the best.
Tesla claims they have 98%, but if they want their money, they're going to have to find a way. Yes and no. We'll get there. All right. So we as a state receive $66 million out of a $5 billion pot. These sites, they are an 80-20 split. We will provide 80% of the funds, up to $1.2 million. Private entities are responsible for 20%. In our round 1 awards, private entity actually upped that to receive higher scores on the proposal. between the 13 sites that we awarded in round one, on average, they brought about 54% of the funds. So we anticipated round one would cost about $22 million out of that 66 to build out. As it sits right now, it actually cost $8.7 million. So we have a substantial amount of money to carry over into the next two rounds. Round one is our interstates. Round two will be alternative fuel corridors, state highways, and then round three will be community-based charging. When we get to community-based charging, we can actually do the level 3 or level 2 charging. So whatever you think is more beneficial for you as a community. A lot of people like the idea of level 2 charging outside of like main streets, sports complex, museums, because if it brings somebody into your town for 4 hours or so during a football game or something like that, or they're going to spend more money in your town. Interstates and AFCs, they're a 50-to-1 ratio, so we will build out a charging station with 4 ports every 50 miles, 1 mile from the exit. This first charger that you see here, the J1772, those are the NEVI required chargers. That's what federal government has told us they have to have. The second charger there, that is your Tesla charger. If you future-proof and add an adapter or add a secondary charging port with a Tesla charger, we award bonus points for that on your proposal. Payment method, anybody that owns a EV, I'm sure you've gone to several different manufacturers and you either have to download an app or something like that to pay, so it can be very chaotic. NEVI requires one single payment method, a credit card. So it's just like a fuel pump. You can also pay through that proprietary app or anything like that, but they must have a credit card reader. They have to be available to the public 24/7, 97% uptime. It's complicated, agreed. And they must report monthly, quarterly, and yearly to EV Chart, which is a federal program that they report to in order to maintain that, report that 97% uptime. Any questions on that?
How much does it cost to charge a car?
It really depends. We're not regulating the cost of the electric. I've heard, like I said, I don't own one. I charge at our department where we have free charging. But in the public, these chargers, I hear they're equivalent to the price of a gasoline if you do the math. So if it costs you, about $30. Yeah, I was going to say if it costs you $30 to fill up a car on gasoline, you could anticipate somewhere in that area.
But can like if it's at a gas station, that gas station can regulate the cost?
That is the Corporation Commission. I do not do that. And the gas station, you're saying does the gas station determine the cost of it? Yes. Yes. Yeah. So like I said, if you're in the EV market to save money, you're not going to save money public charging. Your savings are going to be overnight during those off-peak hours.
The cost really depends on what they're charging at each EV station. Some of the
Correct.
ones around here are 59 cents a kilowatt hour.
Mm-hmm.
The average in Oklahoma is 13 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you charge from your house, it's really pretty economical and really is about the same as gas. But if you charge with DC fast charge at the Francis Energy chargers around town, it's not. Like if you took your Tesla Model S to one of those, it's going to charge $60 to charge that up.
Yep.
And $60 in a Tesla is the same as 3 gallons of gas, and that's really not a good deal.
And it's the same thing. I mean, you can go to a gas station, it's $2.50 at this gas station, and across the street it's $3.50. So it all, like he was saying, it depends on the station itself. So we do not regulate that. That has no bearing on their scoring or anything. We don't even ask what they're going to charge. And to kind of give them a carrot for that 97% uptime, whatever they're awarded, up to $1.2 million, we are keeping 20% of that, and we're paying it out quarterly at once they show that they're at that 97%. So if they want their money, their remaining 20%, they either have to maintain that 97% or they have to tell us why it wasn't at 97% and what they're planning. Because like if a tornado comes through, obviously they're not going to be 97%. But they have to give us a plan and a date when it's going to be back up and running. So I understand that 97% probably isn't realistic, but we're trying to, you can go to just about any gas station and pump gas and you know it's going to work. I've been to several public charging stations that have spider webs growing on them. So we're trying to alleviate that stress. Funding, we already touched on this. It's a 5-year program, $66 million. We just started year 4 and have a total of 0 chargers in Oklahoma. It's off to a great start. Like I said, year 4, I think nationwide there are 18 NEVI-funded chargers throughout the nation between 8 states, so it's a slow-moving project. 1 state has been deemed NEVI compliant, full build-out status. Does anybody want to guess what state that is? California. Everybody says California. No, it's on the East Coast. It's about the size of this room. Rhode Island. They required 2 stations to be completely NEVI built out. I think Oklahoma, round 1, we've got 13 sites. Round 2, we've got 44, so that's 57 sites throughout Oklahoma in order to reach NEVI compliance before we can move on to communities. This number here says 20,000 in Oklahoma. That's about 22.5 now. I think this slide's maybe from April. So, but you can see there on that chart, it definitely spikes here in the last few years. EV adoption rate has increased dramatically. Any questions so far? Anybody else? No? Looking at you? I'm good right now. All right, we're good right now. All right. Okay, we'll write them down. Yep.
Does anybody look to see if you could flip the switch tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
50% of our fleet was now electric, what it would do to the grid?
So that is a discussion that we have had with several utility operators, OG&E, PSO, Western Farmers out in western Oklahoma. They are not concerned whatsoever with interstates and highways. They have 0 concern about that. What their concern is and what they're trying to figure out is when every other garage has an EV in it. And residential properties are now deemed commercial because they have 2 220s or however that works. That's their concern. They're not concerned about, they said this along interstates and stuff, it'll put strain on the network, but not anything to raise concern. But once there's one in every driveway, that's what they're trying to figure out. Yes?
Yeah, I hear stories of electric manufacturers are having trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Not really doing what we thought they'd do, and maybe aren't earning any money at all or losing money. I mean, is this $66 million cart before the horse? Is it going to be, are they really going to show up when people really going to start buying it if we invest this money like this?
With the current trends and everything, it's definitely an uptick. I spoke with the vice president of GM. It's been a little over a year ago now. Their pledge is by 2028 to no longer make ICE vehicles, internal combustion engine vehicles. They will focus on diesel and electric vehicles only. So that's GM, pretty big manufacturer. Whether that statement changes, especially with what happened at the beginning of this year, I don't know, but I don't have the answer to that. I knew you were going to have a question.
I'm asking this question
Right.
before our meeting. So, we have a new president who
Mhm.
on one hand says he does not believe in supporting the move to electrical vehicles. You got Elon Musk, there. Are you, okay, I'm just going to say this. I think at some point that love affair will break up, and I can see president saying, let's do something to swamp Musk.
Mhm.
Who knows?
Mhm.
That's just me. But my question is, are you hearing anything about the future of all of this?
So
Political standpoint.
not from a political standpoint, but yes and no to answer your question. We have monthly and quarterly meetings with the surrounding states that we have surrounding us, with the joint office and with AASHTO. Nobody has any answers right now. We're all kind of waiting to see what happens. I'm not going to forget about you, but we'll touch on that here in just a second. I promise. So it kind of goes into another slide that I've got. So this is the existing EV infrastructure in the state of Oklahoma. The big dots on there with the little cloud around them, those are NEVI compliant stations. You will see on our next slide some of those fall off of the map due to discussions that we've been having with these sites. That's a beautiful slide. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so I don't know what happened there. This is, you can see out on I-40, for example, there were 4 stations. Now there's only 2. Those are Francis Energy stations. Everything about them are NEVI compliant except for 2 things: the 97% uptime and the reporting to EV chart. Per NEVI guidelines, they could actually put an RFP in for those sites for upgrades in round 2. And if they're willing to provide data to EV chart, we can throw them back on the map. If not, if a station is awarded across the street from them, they're going to have some competition. So it's kind of up to them how they want to play that. The blue sites, those are our round 1 awarded sites, 13 of them. 8 of them are Loves, 2 of them are Tesla, 2 of them are Francis Energy, and 1 of them is EVgo. Any questions there? All right. This is what we need in round 2. These are the 44 gaps that we need to fill with round 2. I don't know, is there any on there that run through Stillwater? Yep. So right there on 51, you could actually get one here in Stillwater, as long as it's 1 mile within State Highway 51. Any questions there? All right. Nope. All right, here's where I'm going to get to your question. So this is our timeline. You can see just about none of the dates on here line up with what we have planned. We were actually going to go for round 2 RFP February 1st. That has been, if everybody's heard, paused is the word that they're using. January 20th, Executive Order 14052 was signed to effect, pausing any NEVI activities for 90 days. Kind of scary for me, since this is what I was hired to do. So the only thing I am doing NEVI right now are these meetings like this right here, where we've already made commitment to come out and speak to you. Anything other than this, I am not allowed to do. After 90 days, we're not sure what's going to happen. That's where I said the joint office, for example, they've been put on communication lockdown. They cannot speak to anybody about anything. That's where we get a good portion of our information from, and we have been cut off from them. After 90 days, we met with AASHTO. They're not certain what's going to happen after 90 days. Realistically, they could put another 90-day freeze on it. So we're not sure what's going on. With that, any questions? No? So it kind of pushes back all of our plans here. We plan to release round 2 RFP in February, with a summer-fall release for round 3 for communities. That's obviously going to be pushed back at least until mid-April now. So past that, I don't know. We'll hopefully learn something mid-April. We were actually going to break ground with Tesla on their first site in Henrietta. We were scheduled to break ground with them end of January, beginning of February. January 20th, I had to tell them, hey, we're not doing anything. And I'm in contact with them twice, 3 times a week. They're wanting notice to proceed, and I can't give it to them. So, yes.
Can I go back to the question about the load on the grid?
Yes.
You said the utility companies are not worried if it's only on the interstate, but are. But since you've got to charge your car either on the interstate or at home, you can't be doing it in both places at the both times. Why does it make a difference?
Right. So they're not concerned about the interstates because the electrical grid along interstates is already sufficient to supply that power to those stations. You got to think of all the stuff that's there. There's gas stations, Walmart, box stores, all this stuff. They've already got the power there. It's trying to buy the transformers and equipment to upgrade your personal line to your house that they don't have. We've got all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and D.C. trying to build this out at one time. So transformers, for example, they've been back ordered for 18 months when they announced that this program was going to go. OG&E saw the writing on the wall, so they purchased all these transformers, and they've got them on hold waiting to build this out for interstates and state highways. Once it gets to the residential zones, that's a lot of, it's supply and demand. Everybody wants it, and it's just not going to be there. Not for a while. Yes. No. I hear yes and no. Maybe. It is not required 3-phase. And it depends. Does that answer your question? Did I help you any? There you go. All right. Any other questions?
I got one.
Yes.
And I'm not quite sure how to put this together, but it seems to me that we have 3 things that are really going to be pushing for more electricity over the next however many years. 1 is population growth, 2 is EVs, 3 is power needed for data centers like we're getting ready to have.
Right.
I don't have any idea how many other data centers are planned to go up in Oklahoma, but if you take into consideration the growth, the expansion of EVs, and the tremendous draw that the data centers have, how are we going to be able to generate enough energy to keep up with all of it if it grows at the pace that we anticipate it growing?
Right.
Because it sounds like in the next 10 years, the anticipation is that the data center need is going to be 15, 20% of total energy production. Right now, it's less than 5. That's a massive increase. And then you put these other things on top of it. How do we do that in such a short time period?
Right. Anybody in here from OG&E? No. I don't have the answer for that. I don't know. I'm not an electrician, an electrical engineer, none of that. They basically told me, here's a pot of money, spend it. So I've reached out to these utility companies, and they're like, yeah, we don't see any concerns with your first 2 rounds. Go for it. So yeah, exactly. So if they're telling me they're okay with it, I have to take them by their word. They're the subject matter specialists. So excellent question, excellent concern. Next question.
I have a question over here. You have already completed phase 1, is that correct?
We have awarded phase 1.
Do you have the money?
No.
So,
No. And FHWA, Federal Highway Association, has been directed not to reimburse any NEVI funds until further guidance has been given. So we do not have any of the money. We're not getting it until April.
maybe.
Maybe. And then after April, we'll see.
So you have people who have made the proposals, who have started the construction?
No.
They have not started the
No.
construction on that?
Nobody has been given notice to proceed.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. If we have people hanging out
No.
there.
We have
like that.
one signed contract. That's with Tesla in Henrietta. I spoke with them yesterday. They told me if I cannot give them a concrete timeline within 2 weeks, they may have to go a different route. And I said, okay.
Oh, Tesla's got the money.
Yes.
I might be wrong about this, but I understand this only supercharger, if you will, is
Perry does have a bank of Tesla superchargers. I think there's 8 of them. Yep. Right. Yep. Yep. Those are not NEVI compliant because they have the Tesla charger and not the J1772. But yes, those are there. Yes.
So a couple of things. CREC,
You're limited to 3 questions, so I think you're no.
Okay, this is going to be one long question.
I think you've already had 2. So, no, go ahead.
So what's the benefit to Oklahoma for doing this?
The federal government said, here's $66 million. Spend it or lose it.
So, with what benefit?
Right. I mean,
we spend this money. What do we get for it?
I may not get anything from it. I'm a gas vehicle driver. He's an EV driver. He's going to benefit from it. It may not be a program for everybody, but for those people that do have EVs, I'm sure you're familiar with range anxiety. He was just saying that his son had to go down to Perry to turn around and come right back, so he had to charge.
Well, don't take this wrong. I've got over 160,000 miles in plug-in vehicles. I'm probably one of the top 2 proponents for having electric vehicles. But I know my questioning has kind of been negative, but it's kind of playing devil's advocate here. But what's the benefit to Oklahoma? Why do we do this? Is this an environmental thing? Is it just a services for people in Oklahoma?
So I don't spin it as an environmental thing. It could be if that's your stand on it. It is an economic growth benefit to Oklahoma. I spoke to people down in Broken Bow area. They said during any summer they have an increase in EV traffic. They could have up to 600,000 EVs through Broken Bow in one summer. They're all from Texas. Not all. Majority of them are from Texas. If they come to Oklahoma and they spend their money here, that's economic growth. Workforce development. These stations are going to need maintenance and system updating and all that. NEVI funds can be used for workforce development. So there's several areas that can benefit the state.
But the benefit to the driver is it depends on the cost of the electricity that you're going to charge these vehicles with.
Yes.
The DC fast charge here in Stillwater are really expensive. That's why they're hardly ever used here.
Right. And that's another point. Not the money-wise, but as far as charger location. If you have a gas vehicle and you have an EV and you're going to take a trip to Florida and you're going to road trip, you're probably going to take the gas vehicle. With this program, I'm getting... Okay. Yeah, with this program, we're trying to alleviate that. So if you did want to take, it may not be a cost benefit at that point, but at least now you have the option of taking EV or gas. Hey, look, last slide. Anybody else, real quick? Yes.
What's Oklahoma State government? What's the government's stance on EV? Are we still banning Tesla from selling in the state, or?
No, there's a Tesla dealership. Just
Yes, but Tesla cannot sell directly into Oklahoma.
oh, that I don't know. I don't have any dealings with that. Yep. I do know there's a Tesla dealership within a mile of my office. So if that tells you anything, I don't know. All right, I'm going to let Tim have it then. Anybody else? All right.
All right, before you run off,
Okay.
first of all, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We have a belief in supporting literacy here, so we'll be donating a book to the public library in your name. And thank you for coming. So let's thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So a couple of announcements. Next week is going to be, we're going to flip-flop